Thank you all for joining us. This is Jeremy Gall from Breezeway, here for the VRM Intel online conference. And I'm excited to be here with a few people in the industry that I have tremendous respect for. And thank you for joining. We're recording this. Some folks are joining us live, and we may come back on live to answer some questions when this airs in practice next week. First of all, thanks for being with us and taking the time, not only to our panel, but to the folks that are here with us. I know there have been a number of webinars and lots of content. There's a reason why, right? Like, we are all in an unprecedented time trying to navigate a very difficult personal and professional landscape with the pandemic that's happening and the effect that it's having on our business, our personal lives, and on the economy. And what we want to focus on today is a little bit of a different format and conversation, and really make this conversational. These are a few property managers with tremendous experience in the market that I think have great insights that we can share. And I know in speaking with them that they crave these sort of insights from their peers as well. And this is a way to sort of kick that piece of the conversation off and really share. We're actually, we're doing, and I think a lot of us have been part of these other presentations and sort of either Zoom channels or things where people are just sharing more information, understanding how to cope and work through this. So the theme here today is a path to recovery and how to prepare. I almost changed the topic of this slide, preparing for, it's not really after COVID-19, it's really with COVID-19. I think this is going to be with us for some time. And so how do we prepare for business in this environment and think through it? So I'm going to introduce our panel and then sort of kick off the conversation here. So with me today on video, we have Jeremy Clayton from Padre Escapes. Thank you, Jeremy, for being here. We've got Jeff Thompson from Benchmark up in, at least on my screen, up in the top left corner. And then in the top right corner, we've got Mike Harrington from Carolina Retreats. I think if you wouldn't mind, just so that the audience has a little context, it'd be great to hear from each of you, just a little bit of background, quick background about your business. I think a lot of people know you, but for the folks that don't, I think that'll help orientate them and give them some perspective. So Jeremy, if you want to go first, just a little bit about your business, size, et cetera, your experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me today. And to start, we're in Corpus Christi, Texas. We're on North Padre Island out here. We have 265 properties, and something that's probably pretty unique for us compared to others is that our market is completely condos, townhomes, duplexes, multifamily properties. The city of Corpus Christi has a code that does not allow for stays of less than 30 days on single-family homes. So, we're working on the condo and townhome side, and then not necessarily what I do, but part of our company deals with the HOA side, and then we also do real estate as well.
Yeah, thanks for that. And then we'll just go up and around. Jeff, how about you?
Hi, everyone. So Benchmark Management, we're in Santa Rosa Beach, Florida. We're in the Panhandle. So our sweet spot is between Destin and Panama City Beach. Good old Highway 30A is what we say here. We manage about 430 properties. I've kind of grown the business through some acquisitions here recently. So we've gotten fairly large fairly fast. But exciting businesses, but some exciting times to talk about today.
Yeah, thank you for that. And last but not least, Mike.
Yep, Mike Harrington. So we're based in the southeastern coast of North Carolina, the Wilmington area. A couple different offices throughout that region. We have approximately 300 homes that we manage. And I've been in the business for 15 plus years, started on the Outer Banks, and have acquired some companies over the past 4 or 5 years to form Carolina Retreats right now. So.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, thank you for that. And so I'm going to kick it off for about just lay a little bit of groundwork and then open it up to some specific topics here. And there's a lot we can talk about, and I'm looking forward to it. I think, first of all, we are going to travel again. I think a lot of us have been just cooped up. If you're like me and you're cooped up with your kids, this is what it looks like at home, and it's a pretty bad scene. And you're looking forward to being able to move again. And I think we all realize there's incredible uncertainty. We're all doing our part to sort of limit our mobility, but there is an end to this. And I think the backdrop that I find comforting and optimistic, I'm an optimist at heart, is that everyone will have spent all this time sheltering and stuck in their house, and my goodness, they are going to want to get out, and they are going to want to move, and they're going to want to go somewhere. And I don't think they're going to be jumping on a cruise, and I don't think they're going to be jumping on an airplane to do a lot of international travel. I think what they're going to do is they're going to get in their car and they're going to drive to one of the closest drive-to destinations, and they're going to want to book a vacation home. And there's a lot of reasons, why I have a lot of confidence in that. Sadly, we don't know exactly when that's going to happen, and that's really hard on the business. But sort of opening it up to each of you, it's still it's speculation, but in times of uncertainty, it's something that we've got. As you think about your own markets, how do you think about when business is going to open up?
For us, I'll start if you don't mind. We're a drive-to destination. We're in Corpus Christi. We have San Antonio, Austin, Houston within a 3-hour drive. I guess depending on how fast you're going there, but just a short ways away. Our 80% of our customers drive an average of 208 miles. So definitely a drive-to destination. We should see things pick up faster than most, I would imagine. I think we've seen things falling off slower than most. In our county, we only have, last count I heard was about 75 people that are infected with the virus. And we just this week got notice that we can't have any short-term rentals. So we've fallen off later than I think most others have, or so I've heard. And I think we'll be, maybe this is the optimistic side of me, but I think we all have to have that optimism right now with everything going on, especially as we communicate with owners. But that optimistic side of me feels like, late May, we could come back. It could be later than that, of course, but that's kind of the way we're looking at it right now.
Yeah, Jeff, what about you?
Yeah, I think very similar. I think first thing I'd say is it's a really tough time because you're kind of pulled in two different directions. One side of me, I've got a family, I've got kids, I've got older relatives, and the idea of staying put is really weighing on your mind. But we also have a business to run. We got to look out for owners. We got to look out for employees. And so it's just been a really difficult time where you're torn in two directions. We're in Florida. Sounds like we may be time-wise. I think nationally, people would be saying Florida's a little bit behind based on the way they think things nationally. But Jeremy, we're probably a little bit farther ahead. So we've been with suspended vacation rentals for the last 2 weeks. That expires today. Some talk that it'll be extended, but who knows? I think it's just a wait and see situation. But we have until the end of April where we're still at, the whole state's under kind of the whole stay at home. So, we have no idea. Let's be really honest. We have no idea when these things really are going to get lifted. But from a preparation standpoint, and like Jeremy said, maybe there's some optimism in it, but we have to plan and we have to choose something. For us, it's really just focused on the summer. So Memorial Day, if things can open up by then, I feel like we can be prepared and really start looking that way. But who really knows? But hopefully things by mid-May have at least, I've been calling it the light at the end of the tunnel. I just want to be able to start seeing a light at the end of the tunnel so we can start to move forward.
Yeah. Mike, how about for you?
Yeah, Jeremy, I agree with you. So our general product, vacation rentals, is probably in the best position of any other product out there for travel. So that's number one. Number two, I mean, I have to fall back on my experience from the recession, the Great Recession in '08. So similar but not, but that was a situation where it was just availability of funds for people. So very uncertain times, a lot going on. However, we bounced back much faster than anybody else. I mean, so started off slow. Yes, you did have to look at your pricing a little bit more carefully, but it came back really fast. In this situation, it's people being able to physically travel, so that's going to be tough. And I would certainly caution people thinking that by the end of April we're going to be rocking and rolling. I don't see that happening. I mean, especially in North Carolina. I mean, it looks like from everything we've looked at, projections and listening to the governor and locally who's kind of following their lead. I mean, if I was a betting man, they're setting us up to extend our stay at home or some form or fashion through May, to keep, quote unquote, flattening the curve. So, I mean, all of our preparations, even though it's not 100% official, is we're planning now for Memorial Day on. I mean, that's our game plan. Even if we don't get Memorial Day, June on, we're planning for that, number two. But I mean, for a lot of people out there, that's probably what we're looking at before we really start, kind of going forward.
Yeah, I think we're in the same. Truthfully, we're in the same boat. I mean, we're a vendor to the space, but we are right there lockstep with everybody else, and we think about it the same way, that business is on a bit of a freeze through certainly through April, probably through May, but that there does have to be some light at the end of the tunnel, and that's how we hear that most of our clients are preparing for this as well. As you think about that, like, how do you think about when there is that uncertainty, right? I think there's a couple of different themes I think would be helpful for folks to think through and hear how you guys are thinking about it, right? Like, the first is, you've got different constituents. You've got your owners, you've got your guests, you've got your own staff, and you've got your own business. I don't really want to get into sort of the financial, like, biz ops type piece of the conversation, but I think when it comes to the owners, with the owners and the guests, let's start with the owners first. As you're trying to manage that uncertainty with the owners, maybe Mike, we'll reverse course here. We'll start with you. How often are you, what's the game? How do you think about that game plan? Are you keeping them updated weekly? How are you building more confidence into the program? I expect, and I don't know how you guys feel about this, but like, I expect some of the first people you'll see are going to be some of your owners who can get to their properties. And that's going to force you to sort of be open for them if they're not already there. Some people can't travel. But how are you thinking about confidence for the owners to keep them on the program and make them understand that your properties are ready for that?
Yeah, I mean, for us, this time period has been crucial for communication. I mean, and if we ever earn our money, now's the time where we earn our money, right? I mean, so I've said this before, where worst case scenario, if something happened to us as a business, we're just going to hand the owners the leases for those guests for the rest of the summer and say, good luck, right? I mean, I can guarantee you they don't want to do that. So, I mean, this situation it's been very positive, and it's because it's been so unique, but we're basically speaking as to the owners and saying, this is what we're doing. We're not going to them and saying, well, what do you think? Or should I ask, this cannot be a democracy at this particular point in time. So we have to make the decision. We're going to look after their best interest. Sometimes they agree, sometimes they don't, but I mean, that's what we're doing. I mean, so we're walking that tightrope of instilling confidence in our guests who've always trusted us with their vacation, and obviously our client who's the homeowner, and looking after their best interest. And sometimes their best interest is refunding money you know, and being flexible. So we're very lucky. I mean, virtually 100% of our owners are on board. We've had healthy dialogue. I've personally stayed in constant communication with them and let them know our plan. But you know, I'm hoping this is going to cement our relationships and show that, you know, local boots on the ground management companies are worth their weight in gold moving forward.
Yeah. Jeremy or Jeff, you want to add to that?
Well, sure, I'm happy to. I think Mike said it exactly right. I don't think you're necessarily in a democracy. I don't know that we always just dictate everything to our owners, but at the same time, this situation has developed so quickly. The idea that there's time for a lot of dialogue and then to manage certain properties as a one-off basis, it's not practical. I don't know how you can do it. And so as things really develop quickly, to me, I think making your decision, being mindful of all of your constituents, but making your decision, move forward, let's be honest, with some confidence that you really are doing the right thing. And then I think the backside of that is being transparent. We're not trying to hide anything of what we're doing with our owners or what we're doing in terms of refund policies. None of that is I mean, we're just being honest and saying this is exactly what we're doing. Here's why we're doing it. We think it's in the best interest of everyone. And we mean everyone, right? We have a lot of different people that we have to take care of. And so our frequency, so I mean, I feel like we've managed like that always in the past, but I think it's the frequency of the communication has increased rapidly because the information is changing rapidly. So for us, I mean, things, while they aren't great right now, there's not a lot of new information coming out every day as it was maybe 3 weeks ago. And so we're down to, you know, more of a week or so before we're kind of touching base, but our property managers are really much more in touch these days. And Jeremy, to your point, the only check-ins we have are owners. And so we've got owners that have been coming in for the last 2 to 3 weeks. That's the only people that we have coming in. So some of that is increasing where we're frankly, I'm very much discouraging face-to-face meetings, even when they're here. If they demand it, we can deal with that. But I'm very supportive of our people not having a face-to-face meeting. Technology can help with this situation. So they aren't necessarily going to the property to meet with the owner, but the owner, when they do check in, their place is ready to go. I mean, we just continue to follow those processes.
Yeah. Speaking of communication, Jeremy, I didn't want to cut you off.
No, go ahead. I was just going to reiterate, you know, they nailed it really.
Yeah. I think speaking of communication, another theme I wanted to bring up, and we'll bounce around a little bit here, is like, so I've been thinking about this from the traveler perspective. And as we think about the traveler, I'm curious to sort of get your take, you know, is this I think we're entering a new world. I've always had the philosophy, and I think, you know, I know you guys, I've worked with you guys, I know you sort of share this as well, that like professional management is the key, quality is the key. I think what we're seeing here through this pandemic and afterwards is going to be a continued emphasis on that, where that is just even more paramount and is going to be top of mind for the traveler. I'm curious though, do you think we're going to enter a phase where, you know, there's going to be a whole new traveler mindset around cleanliness, hygiene, quality, and like really being concerned about that? And if so, is that a permanent condition, or, you know, much like many other things in life, you know, we take these things seriously for a while, it starts to fade away, and then life sort of returns to normal? I'm curious about that because I think it has pretty big business implications in your world. Jeremy, how about you, since I cut you off the last time?
You know, I think it'll, you know, of course, right after this, we're going to have huge implications. You know, cleaning is going to be paramount. Positive cleaning reviews, you know, that's definitely going to be a big factor there. I think it'll be similar to, say, 9/11 and how patriotic everyone felt as soon as 9/11 happened, and maybe not to that extreme, but, you know, everybody's going to be very aware of everything regarding cleanliness and using disinfectants and the high-touch areas and whatnot. Very conscious of those things. That'll probably last a good year. I think, you know, this time next year, if we don't have any reoccurrence, it'll probably be cut in half. 2 years from now, that may drop some more. When something's not top of mind, I don't think it sticks with you and it just kind of fades away. I think that's what happened over time with this.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like, I think it's akin to, you know, your gym membership. You know, you're going to go back to the gym and grab the weights and, you know, that somebody else was just using, or, you know, is that part of your life just pretty much done and you're not going back? After being, you know, cooped up for a few months, you've had a lot of time to think about this. And so I think that traveler is really going to change that emphasis. Are you thinking about, Jeremy, are you thinking about, or maybe I'll ask Jeff too, same sort of question, but with a little more context. You know, I was on a separate panel, managers talking about actually including images of their cleaning protocols or the chemicals that they use in their listing profile, that might ship out to OTAs to really reinforce cleaning, that's the sort of landscape that we're in. You know, what do you think about that? That seems, you know, we would never have talked about anything close to that before this.
We have not thought about going that far. Right now, what we're doing is you have a little bit of time to go over, let's call it your standard guest communications. We're definitely trying to get on the front end of explaining some of the cleaning procedures and things that we are doing. And listen, maybe I'm naive. I don't think I'm terribly naive, but maybe I am. But frankly, the procedures and the things that we do in the ordinary course, I don't mean to be callous, but sort of are good enough. I mean, you know, we needed to clean our places before this. There's more focus. I'll be honest. If we want to get details, there's more focus on remotes, and there's more focus on doorknobs and things that are high touch areas. So we're trying to, you know, tweak our protocols and things we're working with our cleaners and our inspectors to make sure that we get to. But so far, I'll tell you, the input from our guests, I think it's the overall cleanliness and how it looks is obviously important, and none of that's changed, right? That was that way last year and the year before. I think people are asking more questions, but I also think they're taking our answers pretty quickly to say, yes, what we clean with is disinfecting, and as far as we can tell, and the advice that we get, that it should be, you know, neutralizing this virus. So I don't know that things have changed for us in a big way. And again, maybe I'm naive. Maybe there's a wave of this coming that we're going to have to address. But so far, we haven't really gone that far down that path.
Yeah, I'm going to keep adding a little more as we go around. I'm going to keep adding a little more context to the question, right? I think it's like, it's interesting to me, and I think most of the audience as well, like, right? This is the, you folks self-select to be at the top of the professional managers. You know, you're at the top of the list of people who take this seriously, right?
Well, yeah. So we fully expect.
Professional manager, that's what you're been.
Yeah.
What's up?
So we fully expect a wave of questions to come in. You know, it's how detailed, you know, to what degree remains to be seen. But I mean, our feeling is we have to have a very specific answer to answer the question when it comes up, and you know, rightly so. You're right. I mean, we do the best job we can each reservation cleaning a property, but in our market, I mean, in the summertime, we might be turning 200 to 300 homes in 6 hours, you know, so it's going to be a big undertaking for us, and it's going to cost extra money, people, resources. So, I mean, we're thinking this stuff through right now, and look, that's a good problem to have. I'll gladly take it, other than nothing, right? So, but you know, whether this is a prolonged, you know, year-long thing, I don't know, but you know, maybe it's good for us. Maybe we need to be doing it anyway, right? So.
Yeah, I think it's, I guess, I think, especially for this audience, I think this is an opportunity. right? I mean, you got two people on who are very acquisitive. You've acquired other companies, right? Like this is, as quality continues and as travelers are thinking more about that, the people who can deliver on that quality experience, you're not seeing too much change because you already take those protocols and that really seriously. But I think it's going to be, I guess maybe to put a finer point on it, I think it's going to be hard for somebody to walk into an individual owner-run property. It's not super, it may be clean, but it's not totally set up in a professional manner. And now I'm questioning everything about that property. It's not set up in a real hospitality manner. And now I'm really curious. I can't really get a good sense of whether or not I feel really safe and clean and ready to come to this place. And I think there's an opportunity for professional managers to drive that. This may be a once in a generation opportunity for professional managers to drive that wedge even further between those types of inventory. And I'm curious, as you think about that in your marketing plans, like, does that come into play? Maybe I'm getting it, maybe that's too optimistic, too forward thinking about what's going to happen towards, in the summer and making a big assumption about travel coming back. But I'm curious how you think about that from a marketing standpoint to capture more market share.
I think that's, I have a note on my desk, above my desk that says obstacles are opportunities. And I think that's absolutely what this is. This is an obstacle for a lot of people. This is an opportunity for us to, one, get new guests from the cruise market or travel, air travel. Then I also think there's an opportunity for us to pick up new properties. Individual owners are probably getting hit pretty hard from this, just with everything that's going on with Airbnb and just dealing with new cleaning standards. We do have a cleaning notice posted on our property. Excuse me, a cleaning notice posted on our property that says we use a CDC certified cleaner on every property. And we have a laundry facility where we launder everything at temps of 160 degrees. So we're hoping that just reassures some of those people, hey, we're using a professional company here. They have a higher standard than most other companies or individual owners. We want to stay with a company like this rather than someone where, we don't know how watered down that cleaner is that they use there. Just to reassure some of those people out there. And, vacation rentals, the privacy of a vacation rental is going to be a real opportunity for us compared to, say, a hotel where you're going through a lobby and checking in at a front desk and having this face-to-face contact. And we're letting people know, hey, this property has an electronic lock. You can go straight to the property. You don't have to see somebody face-to-face. Those are some real opportunities for us, I see. I know it's different for everyone, but that's an opportunity for us.
Yeah,
Jeremy
Jeff,
and Amy, can I jump in with a question? It's from
Yeah.
Brittany at Gibson. She said, does anyone plan to provide any cleaning supplies at the rentals when rentals commence, like perhaps hand soap, sanitizer, Clorox wipes? And she said extra toilet paper, but she also said that was a joke. So, I wanted to see if anyone was adding to the amenity packages that you put inside the units.
I've got a note for us to look at these branded hand sanitizer bottles to put in every property.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only change we were looking at.
Same with us. I mean, that's something we're looking at. Frankly, it's availability, I think. So we're not there yet, but it's definitely something we're thinking about.
Yeah, we already provide some of that stuff, and it's obviously make a larger point that it is there at the house before you get there. But yeah, same with us. What they're doing.
The other question on this, some of these risks that you were talking about. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, my only thing I was going to add to that is
No.
I see some opportunity to add some mid-stay cleans to these as well.
Mid-stay cleans, yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Robin said, how do you highlight these risks without scaring people off? And then I'm going to jump.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I mean, I think I would, I think people are well aware already, and that sort of fear or anxiety is already there, and that if you're talking about it, you're helping just alleviate it rather than raising it. But I think it's a really good question. I don't know how you think about that in your marketing. Are you thinking about that in your, like, doing any like homepage marketing takeovers, extra messaging about cleanliness and safety at that level, even before the booking level? Or do you think that highlights the problem a little too much?
I don't think it's a problem. I mean, I think it's expected, to be honest with you. So if someone's looking at a vacation rental to book, it's a legitimate question. And that, if frankly, they're going to be more scared if you don't say anything, in my opinion. So that's the way we're looking at it. I mean, we're not going to go hog wild and put a huge thing on the homepage, right? But we might put a little icon on every property detail page that, hey, this is what we're doing, right? So just that little bit of extra during the process, and then maybe an email after you book just to reinforce that. I mean, that's what we're looking at doing.
Yeah, and like I said before, we're really more, I think we're on the level of being a little bit more reactive. So like Mike said, the questions are going to come. So I don't think talking about it is a problem, because they are going to come. I think just being prepared for those questions is where we are today.
Yeah. And Jeff mentioned earlier, these are all standards we've already had. We've been doing these things. That's the same for us. We've been doing these things. We're just pointing them out now, and we're also educating our reservationists on those things so they have the right answers to those questions when they come in.
Yeah. Are you thinking about, as business comes back, and maybe Amy's got a couple other questions, but another one from me, as you plan, as you prepare, sometime in the summer, June, July, August, are you thinking already of, whether or not you have to change check-in, check-out times, sort of prepare for extra time around the back-to-backs? Or do you think that, you've got by adding fees, adding people, you've got 200 turns, you can still make that in the summer? I think that's going to be something, depending on your market, that people are going to struggle with. So I'm curious, you guys are in different markets, how you're thinking about it.
I can jump in here first. I am not thinking that we need to change those check-in times. So, much like Mike mentioned, I mean, we're 10 to 4, and turns can approach 200, 300 turns for us. So while it's a big effort, I mean, to me, it's more about adding additional cleaning capacity as opposed to thinking about changing some of those times around. We inspect every property with our own people. I think they can handle some of the additional wipe downs and things like that we are now requiring as well, to make sure we've at least done another step. But I truly believe they can do that as part of their inspection process. And while we may be adding minutes, which are critical, I don't think we're adding, half hours to the process, which in our market, honest, could then make or break how many, somebody can clean that particular Saturday for us. So at this point, I think we'd be more looking to add bodies and keep the times the same.
Yeah.
So it's a great question. And we've thought a little bit about this. We offer early check-ins to a large number of check-ins every weekend. We're probably going to either eliminate that or severely limit the amount we do this year, just to give us this extra time. I mean, most of our guests are, I know they'll be understanding, and we probably will not allow many early arrivals, even if we do have it cleaned before. I mean, we just want to be able to get someone in there, do another walkthrough just to double check, but have a pretty hard time frame within our current parameters. Maybe not quite as flexible as we used to in the past for this year.
Yeah, we do a 11 o'clock checkout, 4 p.m. check-in, and it probably depends on who you ask in the company right now. But as of now, we don't have any plans to change, check-in times or any adjustments on that level. We'll of course be keeping a close eye on those things and adjust if needed.
Yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting. That's going to be an interesting, the operational piece of this. Operationalizing this, I think, is going to be. It's going to be pretty interesting. How were you? I think another thing that people we've gotten some questions from, and I think we've seen some chatter in a bunch of the different forums is, The office used to be, centralized hub. Everybody's moved more remote. How are you, besides, Zoom and Slack and throwing some technical tools at it? Are there some strategies you've employed for the staff and communication, to sort of keep everybody? Have you made some changes as we've moved to a little bit more remote work during this period? I know we had to do that. I think a lot of other companies are doing that, but I'm curious if you've got some good ideas for people on that front as well.
Jeremy, what's really become popular is this whole Zoom thing, which we aren't doing at all. For us, and I say it because, I don't know if people really know what they have a lot of times when it comes to software. And I tend to geek out about some of this stuff sometimes. So, most people out there have Outlook and Word and those sorts of things. Well, if you've got those licenses, you also have Microsoft Teams. And it's, let's go with quote, free. It's probably not the right word, it's included. And we just leveraged that. We were already using that within our business. It's a nice tool to collaborate. It's a nice tool to give easy access to documents that multiple people need. And the video conference, the audio conference stuff comes right with it. So, while I see people and this whole world has turned to Zoom and things like that, for us, it really has not been difficult. We have more people working remotely, bought a few laptops and those sorts of things to really encourage and keep people to do those things. But the tool set, we've just leveraged what we already had, and we haven't had to go out and retrain some training of some people who weren't using some of those features, but we've just extended what we already have. And so I've become a really big advocate of these things. Use the things that you have and try to understand what you actually have. And I found we've got some people in our business that are a little bit slower when it comes to technology. People that I love to death, but they're always my test cases, because if they can figure it out, then everybody can figure it out. And so that's really what we've been able to do. I think it's actually worked really well. And I think what we've learned is it is a business model that actually works. People can work remotely. I've always been a fan of it, and just trying to extend it into this business as well.
Yeah, Mike, you got anything on this?
Surprisingly, it was a lot easier than we thought. We looked around, like Jeff was saying, and said, wow, we already got a lot of this stuff. We just never use it. And, from phone system, right? We have an app. We didn't even know about it. We could just download the app. It's like you're sitting in the office with our phone system. So we have folks working from home. All of our software is in the cloud. Frankly, it's got us thinking too that, wow, we might be able to hire people anywhere to work as a reservationist or what have you. So it's been a real eye-opener too. Another one, I don't know if anybody uses it too, is cheap. There's a free version, but Workplace by Facebook is a great collaborative tool as well. People are very familiar with that. They have Facebook. We use that internally for a lot of team communication. So.
Yeah, I know Amy Gaster and Tybee. She's a big fan.
Yeah.
She's a big fan of that. Jeremy, any big changes as far as like remote work, things that you've been able to employ?
We do have some remote work going on. We have a phone system where we can transfer, where the calls come directly to a cell phone if we need it. It's been great for us throughout this. We only have a handful of people actually taking calls at home. Other than that, pretty traditional methods of, group text, occasional emails with a few people on it, and then just the day-to-day stuff like housekeeping and maintenance. We have Breezeway to take care of that, and so it's been pretty smooth.
Yeah. How do you? I think going back to marketing for a second. If it's not even marketing on the cleaning, right? A lot of you've got quick growing businesses. Are you? What are you sort of looking at as far as leading indicators to think about whether or not you will, turn back on or refocus more of your attention on outward marketing and guest marketing and throwing, real marketing dollars at that. Everybody, we're all being cautious right now as during this uncertainty, but curious what you think of as far as those leading indicators that'll get you moving again. Is it going to be a certain level of bookings? And I think this is helpful for everybody else who's in the same boat, who's sitting there wondering, hey, what should I look for? And then how am I going to plan what I'm going to do around that?
For me, we're keeping an eye on our website. I'm a data nerd. I love looking at the data and seeing what's going on, who we have checking the website. We'll keep a close eye on that. We're a data-driven business. What that data tells us is what we're going to do. We've got a couple low-budget pay-per-click ads running right now and just seeing what's working. Are people hitting on the cleaning stuff? Are they hitting on, traditional, I'm looking to make a reservation stuff? We're tracking those things and keeping a close eye on them, and that's what will be my signal to really, hey, all right, let's turn it on and go full force, or let's pump the brakes and just see what happens for the next week or so.
Yeah, Jeff, what about you?
Yeah, I think I'm looking a little bit more externally than internally on some of this, and right now, at least in my head, what's the trigger point is our beaches are ordered closed. And as soon as we get some indication that they are to open up, then frankly, I think that's the time for us to really start ramping up the marketing. So I agree with what Jeremy said, but until our beaches open up, I don't know why I'm spending a lot of funds until I can see that date coming. And so I really need to see some indication of the reason people come here they can actually get to. Because right now they cannot. I mean, it's physically blocked off, and so I think this is all changing very, very quickly. And who knows? Maybe on April 30th for us, when this is set to expire, they extend it then. But hopefully they'll actually give us some indication of what they're planning to do before we get there. But that's probably what I would say right now. I think all of this is on some sort of continuum. Right. So when this all started to come about, we definitely dropped our spend drastically. And now I think it's more of we're starting to get back to things. I would call it a much softer sell. I don't really want to be seen as someone in the market who's aggressively trying to market to people right now, but reminding people what the beach looks like, I'm happy to do. Because I don't want them to forget about that, and I want them to come back this way. But I think as far as really bringing back the spend and coming after it, I think I need to see an indication that when we start pushing this to people, they actually can come.
Yeah, Mike, what about you? Same boat?
Yeah, same here. I mean, we have rental restrictions, and we're really not 100% sure when they're going to be up. I mean, there's an end date, yes, but I mean, they can always be extended. So, we're doing some social ads, just some things like that, just to stay in front of people. And coincidentally, though, we're getting huge engagement on that stuff on our social feeds as well. So I don't know if everybody's home and sitting on Facebook and Instagram, but it seems like there's some optimism out there from our kind of market. So as soon as we get the okay, hey, we're going to open back up, May 15th, May 20th, whatever it is. We'll probably start ramping up because now I got to backfill summer and fall weeks, right? So I hope it's going to be that easy. We'll see, but we still got to get to that point.
Yeah, too early to be thinking about how you set rates in those periods and whether or not strong demand, that strong social engagement, and the hypothesis that people are cooped up and they're going to want to come, and that the same amount of there's a theory that the same amount of people are going to want to come to the beach. They're just going to have less. There's going to be less weeks available. Too early to start thinking about pricing and how you're thinking about that for the back half or even the middle of the summer.
Yeah, I mean, for me, yeah. I mean, I don't even think we're at that point yet. I mean, we haven't, discounted anything. But you know, I don't think there's a case to say, wow, let's jack the rate up 25% for a Corona fee or something, because yeah, there's more demand. We'll see. I mean, the wild card too is the economy. I mean, you know, people talk about V shape, U shape, L shape, whatever it is. I mean, I don't see this thing snapping back in a V shape, just robust, you know, optimism right after this is done. So we'll see. I mean, I don't feel negative about it, but I think there's going to be a little bit more work that needs to be done, especially to fill some certain type of inventory. So,
Yeah. Jeff and Jeremy, anything you thinking about on that front?
Yeah, I mean, the work we're doing right now is to at least make sure we've got a good feeling of what the baseline, maybe even the way to consider that right now is the floor. If what really does happen, people ramp up and they start coming and we see the demand increase, then I think taking rates up is something I'd rather do quickly. But I'm where Mike is. While Jeremy, the idea that people are going to travel, I agree. I absolutely think there's people that, you know, literally are locked in their house, and so they're going to want to get out. But the other side of that is a lot of those people have lost their jobs, and disposable income. You know, let's see. We'll watch the reports. These things are happening so fast, but the idea that people have a lot of disposable income quickly is a different question. So they're going to want to get away. I agree that vacation rentals, drive-to destinations are absolutely where I think people are going to want to go. But I don't think top dollar is necessarily the first thing that's coming to mind to them as well. So I think for us, the work right now is we're really trying to understand where our rates are for the entire summer. And I'm really trying to get a baseline, you know, which probably the way to read that is we're on the low side of the range of what we feel like we could be at. And then if we start to see demand increase, I'd rather be ramping that rapidly than trying to go another way and discounting and just trying to get bookings. From a mindset, that's kind of how we're approaching it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a pretty conservative approach with it right now too. We're just kind of we use a dynamic pricing tool. We're letting the model of supply and demand just naturally work, and as that demand increases, it'll come up with that. So I'm in close communication with those guys, but we're not touching it right now. We're just letting it do its thing.
Yeah. Another question.
Can I interject on the pricing thing real quickly? There's a question about this. It's actually more of a statement, but it's like, trying to say this without any kind of price fixing antitrust interpretation, that some people are looking at implementing lower season rates throughout this year to not have peak rates, and kind of changing out how they look at this rate structure to get ahead of this. I actually talked to Scott Shatford from AirDNA yesterday, and this idea of heavy discounting, you know, early on. Do you think we'll see that in especially in the highly local markets, or do you think that people will try to hold their rates for a while?
You know, I guess it's completely market dependent. I mean, if you know, you might see some of that. You know, and I'll be careful letting a pricing tool just wholesale kind of do its thing a little bit. You know, because as good as those guys are, this is a completely different situation. And, you know, it remains to be seen. Again, if you got to fly to a destination, if you're dependent upon that, yeah, you're probably going to see a lot of discounts. I mean, if you're within a 2 to 4 hour drive from somewhere, I mean, I think you're in a little bit better shape. But again, it's a lot of moving parts here.
Do you think there will be a difference in property types, like houses versus condos?
I'll be honest, I worry about larger homes because that tends to be groups of people coming together. And so if there is a lingering effect to all of this, I feel the groups of families coming to stay someplace with 20 people, I've got some concern there.
Agreed.
But I think to your question, I was just going to say timing. I think if all of these restrictions get lifted on May 31st, that's going to make June a whole lot different for us in terms of pricing. If things really start to get lifted earlier in May, then I think the idea that we hold a little bit closer to traditional pricing, I think that would be the plan. So I think all of this, and I'm sure everybody's experienced this, this is a day by day thing. Any plans I'm putting into place, I'm looking at tomorrow. There's nothing long term about any of this.
Yeah, I think that's fair. That's what we've heard. Some people not on the discounting, and I think that will be market driven. We've just heard from some people of actually, being really feeling like they can be pretty strong about where their rates are when things do come back. But I think you're totally right. It's too soon to tell. And when you don't know when the switch is going to be flipped, you don't know when the beach is going to open. It's premature to really plan for that now. Are you doing anything else? One other thing that we've heard from some folks is people going in and trying to use this time either, and I think this is a pretty sensitive topic as well, but I'm curious just to hear your thoughts. Using this time, these properties are empty, owners are losing, they're losing rental income, but the properties are available to go in and potentially do some upgrades or make sure that you're fulfilling any sort of preventative work that you can. Now, the problem is you don't have the regular rental income to offset that. But, are you thinking about some of those sort of programs? And, how are you navigating that where you want to focus on what you can control, you want to keep people busy and engaged? I'm just curious how each of you are approaching that dynamic.
We're consulting owners on it. You don't want to go kick them while they're down right now. So if a property hasn't got a deep clean to our fall season, which is when we typically do it, and it still needs it, we're consulting owners on that. Everyone's in a different financial position, and some owners are just like, yeah, take care of it. Let's have it ready to go for summer, or whenever this rebound happens. Others are like, I'd rather not do it right now. Let's wait till things get a little more settled.
I agree, Jeremy. That's the same way we are. I think, as we have a pretty slow winter here, and as we get through February, a lot of those bigger projects that take a little bit more time for our internal guys, a lot of those were wrapping up, and we were getting ready for spring break. And so a lot of those owner checklists, punch items, hey, can you take these? We were starting to decline those. Now it's kind of a time we're dusting that stuff off and say, hey, do you want us to go ahead and approach some of those? I don't know that we're actively seeking it out. We don't have a lot of owners that are in, but we got our fair share of owners that are around. And so some of that work is trickling in to power wash a shower outside or, whatever it might be. Some of these things are happening. But we are, actively, we are not seeking that work because I agree with Jeremy. We're not trying to add to their overall cost when they don't have the rental income coming in.
Yeah.
Same with us. I mean, we're attempting deep cleans and some of that, but then also it's tough getting folks to come work. It's some people just don't want to come do it at this point in time. So we'll see. I mean, it's not significant for us in this. So frankly, we got bigger fish to fry. But we're available if they need us. That's the point.
Yeah. Awesome. I think, I don't know if Amy's got any other questions that came in. I think there's just, the only the last one on my mind was, from folks who've been acquisitive in the market, both for, aggressively growing your owner base and also looking at other companies. I think it's an interesting period of time where, there have been a lot of big players in the space. I think this is it's going to be an unusual time to see how everyone fares through this storm and what the shakeout is as we continue to see news, both from the OTAs and from travel and down to other big national brands. And I think it's going to be very, very interesting. I don't know if you guys have a perspective you're willing to share on that topic, but I think this is a rejiggering of the travel landscape in some ways. Like I think for people who run, really high quality businesses like yourselves, this is what we normally do. This is very unusual and this is a terribly challenging time, but we will get back to business as usual. for a lot of other folks in the travel industry, that's just not really the case. It's a pretty big macro event that's going to cause some deep ripple effects and changes. And I know that's a topic that's on a lot of property managers' minds as they think about the people they're relying on for marketing or their partners or people in their market. So curious if you have some thoughts on that I think people might find interesting.
Yeah, I got lots on that. But I don't really have time.
But none you want to share?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think
You
luckily,
do it.
I'll, just one thing, obviously, and not to pick on OTAs, I think that whole thing's going to be scrutinized even further, right? I mean, so we've always been very hesitant to work with anybody who is merchant or record when it comes to distributing our properties. And I really think this is just showing why. I mean, so, for us, we didn't have any Airbnb liability or anything like that. We do work with VRBO, and then that's not been a problem. But, I think people are going to scrutinize that pretty hard, and it's not going to be as it's not going to be a slam dunk as it used to be of just throwing all your homes up there and and calling it a day. So
Yeah.
I think we've all kind of said that, obviously this is a challenge, but I think every challenge, the other side is that there's an opportunity. I think it's way too early for me to understand what those opportunities can be. But I think let's kind of get through a couple of months here and see I think there will people that will come through this just fine. I think there will people that won't come through this, and there will be opportunities that come from that. And so to me, I think it's a matter of keeping your eyes open and being smart. Let's manage our business and manage the things that we can control, but let's pay attention to what goes on out there in the market. And if there's opportunities that present themselves, then that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with the guys there. And I for us, we're really focused on what we can do and what we can control and taking care of those things. Some of these other larger companies out there that, feel like they've been propped up for a while, it'll be interesting to see how the fallout from all this leaves them.
Yeah, I think just in sort of bookending that, I think it's really interesting. We saw this. I haven't been doing this as long as some of you, but I've been in this business for a bit, and we saw this both in 2008 and a couple of other events. And I think this is, I think there's an opportunity here to really drive a wedge of what it means to be a professional hospitality provider in this accommodation segment, and to really, whether there's been some efforts with localized distribution sites and things like that. Like, I think this is a big opportunity for the smart operators and the professional operators to get a lot of credit for the work that they do, and really drive a wedge so that the traveler consciousness can pick that up and understand, like, wait a second, there's a difference between, there is a difference between inventory. And I truly believe that. And I think this is one of those events that highlights that. I don't know how it's going to play out, and I don't know how people really take advantage of that dynamic, but I think it's there. And I think it's an opportunity for professional rental managers to jump on. Amy, I don't know if you have other questions that have popped up in the interim as well.
No, I'm good. A lot of them you guys answered throughout the session. I really appreciate you guys doing this. On our live day, we will figure out how to do the questions on this too. I appreciate the guys who are on here now. There are a lot of property managers that you guys know pretty well that are in this attendee list. I'm not sure if you can see them right now, but that are on right now. You guys are really, to Michelle, to Robin, to Jim Morris, some people that we all know and love that you guys were thinking about you. I know, Jeremy, you guys have done some things at Breezeway too, put in some relief and some packages for clients as well. Is that not correct?
Yeah, we've done some of that, and I think I think more to it we just, this is for us, this is a long, anybody that knows me, like, we just try to make long-term relationships with people. This isn't a monthly or a yearly sort of relationship. We like to have long-term relationships with people that we work with and with the industry. So we're trying to do what we can to try and think about how we can be helpful. And sort of, we've got some people that are on their hands as well, waiting for this to open up. And so we're just trying to do what we can to make them available as a resource. That's all. And help learn and help people get through it. There's not, our hands are sort of tied with everything we can do, but we're trying to do what we can. So we appreciate, thanks for saying that, Amy, but I think it's about how we just get to the other side of this as a group. And I would just encourage something that we were talking about here on the panel, when we got 2 more minutes here, is that it's helpful. I think it's pretty helpful for for managers to get together and talk to each other and just talk through some of these strategies. Find somebody else in a different, if you don't want to talk to somebody in your own market, find somebody in another market who's similarly sized to you and reach out and make that connection. And talk about some of these strategies, because I think it's really important and helpful that you're not stuck in an echo chamber, or just getting top-down information, from pundits or anything like that. Like, it's about managers helping each other and getting through it.
I think one thing that we've learned in this is that people know about vacation rentals. Like, in all of these restrictions, how quick they were to address short-term rentals in most of these markets, especially Florida. There's not really a lack of awareness anymore in the traveling public about the option of staying in homes, and that's something that's different than the last few crises we faced. I was telling Jeff before everyone else got on that I was talking to John Dalton, who's just an old soul, interesting guy. Who's been around for a long time, and he said, this industry is really good at handling crises, but learning how to spot and handle those opportunities is not as easy for most of the people in our industry. And I think that, like you guys have brought up today, there are a lot of opportunities, that will come out of this. If we assume travel's not going anywhere, who's going to be left standing, and what do these companies look like on the other side?
Yeah,
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, like, I just can't imagine, I'm sorry for some of the hotel groups, but I just can't imagine booking a trip to an urban destination anytime soon. Like, within the next year, maybe plus. I just can't imagine how people are gonna book leisure urban travel. It's just not going to happen. But they are going to be looking to get away. And I think that's just it's a really phenomenal opportunity for vacation rentals to continue growing the way that they have, and then really actually separating even more. But I think there'll be an even bigger wedge. I think you'll see professionalism really take off here.
I think we'll finally see some differentiation in short-term rentals versus vacation leisure rentals. Also property types and professionally managed versus owner managed. I think all of that's about to come. One of the things that Rafat Ali from Skift said in
it's going to be exciting.
Yeah, he called it radical localism. What they're predicting is radical localism, where people are looking in their 2 to 3 hour, 4 hour drive to radius as far as what they can do in that area. And that's what people will feel comfortable doing for a long time. And that fits in really well with our industry for a lot of people.
One thing just on that topic we got to make sure we do, though, is include the local community stakeholders, because there's a lot of them that don't want visitors in their backyard. And we got to make sure we walk that fine line that, by protecting the local economy, but also making sure that they feel safe by having these influx of visitors. So
I think that has been the most surprising thing to me in all of this, is this travel shaming kind of culture that we didn't, which is odd. Like, everyone in some of these destinations lives off tourism to some degree. Like, whether they work in a restaurant or whether they put out beach chairs every day, whether they clean pools or hot tubs or spots. It's so weird to me to see this in a place like Tybee or Gulf Shores or Dolphin Island, you know what I mean, the Outer Banks. I mean, the entire economy is built off of short-term rentals. Is it just fear?
At this point, yeah. I mean, it's hysteria and fear. And look, to some degree, you get it, you understand it, but for a short period of time, let's get this done. But I think you're going to have this kind of issue probably for a little while to some degree. So.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point.
Yeah, well, some of it is understandable. We definitely have the dynamic here, around 30A. While the infrastructure is built up around tourism, the rest of the infrastructure is not necessarily there to support it. So when you think of hospitals, the hospitals are of the size to take care of kind of the community that's here all the time and isn't necessarily equipped to handle the millions of visitors that we get. And I think when this became, it's a health crisis. I think the local people were very, very, and still are very concerned about having the additional wave of people come and overwhelming hospitals that we're all hearing are a big part of the problem in the urban areas. So some of it, as much as a lot of their livelihood may depend on tourism, you can't understand how this is even a bigger problem today, given some of the other infrastructure, we have locally.
Right, that makes sense.
Yeah, that is I'm glad you brought that up. That's a big part of the dynamic. That'll actually be a big part of the dynamic of what the light at the end of the tunnel looks like. Like that will be a dynamic that's in play as business gets opened, as the beach gets opened, and who it gets open for, and then how does that play out in the rest of the community. Same thing here in Pawleys Island, South Carolina. It's a big thing that's going on. Thanks so much. I appreciate you and your time, and thanks for a great discussion and being open to it, and sharing your expertise and your how you're planning for your own business very openly with the community. So I really appreciate that, and thanks, Amy, for giving us the opportunity to do it.
Thanks you guys so much. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.